Hello and welcome to the Slingshot Channel. And Vikings presented me with a new challenge and I love that. Vikings is actually my best sponsor and I think my channel would be down without them. And I think I've done something for them because they just exceeded 20 million players. Can you imagine? And they say that's more than all the Vikings together that ever lived. So, and you can be one of them. Just download the game from my link and that will also please my sponsor. and then you can join the game, and I guarantee it's a fun game. You can find me there as well, although I don't really have a lot of time to play, but every once in a while I show up. What I like about the game is that it's a combination of a strategy game, but also has very cool 3D graphics, really iconic Viking stuff. Gotta love that. And if you download the game from my link below, you get 200 gold, you get a protection shield, and you get the chance to win what I'm going to build because of the challenge. Yes, you heard right. They liked my wooden Viking sword so much that they came up with a follow-up. And this time they want me to build a Viking battle axe. Okay. And of course it needs to be from wood again, but this time they want me to use it in a way that I can prove that it's cutting flesh and tissue. Okay, that's a challenge for a wooden weapon. But this time I'm allowed to use as much as 150 grams of metal in the construction. 150 grams isn't much, but it gives me something to work on. And of course I want to make it really cool looking. Made of wood, but otherwise just like an original Viking axe. Let's get to work. Okay, well that's quite a challenge. But of course I've chosen the right material and I'm optimistic that we can do it. And this will be the base material for our blade. It's actually 12 millimeter plywood, and of course we have to saw it out in a very creative way. Then, because we need to be cutting flesh and also textile, and this means a wooden blade is not good enough. But I have the weight limit that I cannot use more than 150 grams of metal in the entire construction. That's not a lot, like your average knife has more than that. So I need something that I can use as a blade, that's lightweight, and I've settled for this here. So this is actually, I think it's from the painting industry, but what it is really, it's a very thin blade of hardened steel. And that's exactly what we want. Of course we'll remove the wood, but then we're only going to use a part of that blade. But that thing as a whole only weighs about 100 grams, so it's lightweight enough. And I'm going to use a few screws, of course, not a great many, just these screws. And for the handle, I'm using dead wood as always. This is a piece that the storm brought down, and it's actually beech, so it's real hard wood. And of course I have to dry it a bit and also shape it, but I think it makes an ideal vase because it's slightly curved, and that's what I want in a fighting axe, like a little curve. And this is the shape that I decided upon. Of course I need to make it a little larger than this, but this is the shape I want. And I also want to see if I can probably try myself in wood burning. Never done that before, but this looks too pretty not to be done in our little project. Okay, that will be the blade of our axe. And as you see, the amount of metal that we have is just sufficient to really be long enough for this. Now we're sawing it out twice. Between those two halves we will clamp in the metal parts later on, but the first thing that we must do is we must take care of the attachment of the handle later on, and therefore we must strengthen these parts, but also what we must do is we must cut out the shaft hollow. So this is what we will cut out, and as you see it's a little bit smaller here and a little bit wider here, and that is because we need to later on hammer in splints to widen the top of the shaft. And therefore it must be conical with the wider part here. Alright, we basically have the blade ready. Of course it all needs to be filed down, and this later on needs to be strengthened with screws. Alright, we marked the shape of the blade. Yeah, I think you can see it that way. This is how the blade will look like, and now we're cutting it out. It wasn't easy to cut, but you have to do it with the scissors, because otherwise you ruin the hardening of the edge, and that is what we don't want. So now we have to attach it to the blades. Even though this is only 0.5 millimeter thin, because it's hardened, you cannot drill through with a normal drill. So I have done this with the MIDI drill, and then I grinded it away. And now we glued on the piece, but of course it's only as a placeholder, since now we will drill holes to this here. And now comes the time to glue this whole thing together. Of course we will later use screws, but that will be after the shaping. So this already looks a little bit like an axe head, don't you think? And of course it is only glued together so that we have something to work on, but later on it will all be fixed with lots of screws. So, but not too many, so we don't exceed our weight limit for the steel. Now the shape of the axe head is pretty much done, and it is already sharp. I have to take care of working on it because the edges are pointy. And it's a whole different issue than just using a wooden blade. So it's really nice. And now we must insert and install the screws so that it all holds firmly together. Now we put some car body putty over the anachronistic screw heads so that those are later on no longer visible. Okay, the axe head basically is now functional. It's very solid, and as you can see the screw heads are nicely covered, and it is even sharp. Anyway, much sharper than any wooden axe can be. Let's try. Ha! Not bad for a wooden axe. Now we'll start preparing the handle. And first we have to select a halfway straight piece, and we have to settle on a length. And I think that is about the right length for my axe. That's it. That's what I want. And now I have to debark. Now I've widened this a little bit in this direction so that it's now completely conical. So it means it's more narrow here. And now we have to fit in the stock. And this is the size we have to carve this to. So here's the splint I made, and it's gonna be hammered right into here. As you can see, now this is rock solid and can't pull out. And now we're filing this flush a little bit. Okay, put some linseed oil on. And now it's finished. Let's go test it. And this is it. The wooden Viking battle axe. Let me show you its features. As you see, it is completely made from wood except the metal blade in between the front part, and of course some of the screws that are used, but it's definitely much less than 150 grams. I think it's maybe around 70 grams of steel in the whole construction. And even though it's made from wood, it is made exactly the way how a proper axe needs to be made, with the splints and everything. And I also branded it a little bit, but I admit it's rather amateurish because it was my first attempt to burn wood that way. But this is the axe that you can win. All you have to do if you want to win it is you have to play Vikings, and you have to make it to the palace and upload a picture and put it on my Facebook, link down below. And in 1 week there will be a drawing, and then you may be the owner of this collector's piece with my name branded in. You can remove it and put your own in, though. Anyway, it's time to test this thing. See if it works better than the wooden sword that didn't have the metal piece in between. First test, we'll start with some light cardboard cutting. Let's see. And, okay, it worked. Yeah, so that was nice. That worked rather well. Next, ballistic gelatin. Feels different with gloves though. And it's so cold today that actually we need to hurry, otherwise this is gonna freeze. Okay. And go! Boink! Wow, what a cut! Look at that. Yeah, that's different than the wooden sword. Much different. What a difference this little bit of steel makes. Okay, now it's time for the textile test. So we have this piece of tissue and we'll put it over the gelatin and see what happens. It's a little bit like a magic trick in the reverse. And wow! It worked. I think I gotta hold it. Clearly it got through the textile, and it also created a nice little cut into the gelatin. Alright people, I know that I'm presenting you with a lot of sponsored videos recently, and I don't really like that. I mean, I have great sponsors and it's fun to work with them, but I prefer the old way, where you could make honest money for honest work from YouTube. But this is over. But we're fighting against it, and actually the union that I founded is really on a good way. We are now at almost 11,000 members, and I'd be very glad if you would join our fight. No matter if you're a user or a creator, please sign up, and the link is down there, of course. And also there's good news, because YouTube noticed us, and on coming Tuesday, the 20th of March, I will have a video call with the head of global monetization at YouTube. So they are noticing us, and I think that we may be able to change things. And I would really appreciate if you guys would help me doing that. Well, I mastered the challenge. This is a serious weapon, clearly. The little bit of steel changed everything, and I also think it looks beautiful. It's really a piece of decoration, that's what it is. And it could be yours. All you have to do is play the game, go to level 5 in the palace, snapshot, upload to my Facebook page, and then in 1 week you will see if you are the winner or not. And of course, if you do that, then my sponsor will love me and hopefully give me more jobs. So I hope you liked this, because that's it for today. Thanks and bye-bye.